I traveled Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines. But Malaysia shocked me. I thought I had Southeast Asia figured out. After 3 weeks island hopping through Thailand's crystalline waters, getting lost in Indonesia's chaotic beauty, and dancing to Philippines' endless festivals, I was convinced I'd experienced everything this region had to offer. My friends warned me that Malaysia would be boring by comparison. Just another stop to tick off the list before heading home. So when I landed in Kuala Lumpur with low expectations and a half-hearted itinerary, I had no idea I was about to have my entire understanding of Southeast Asia turned completely upside down. What I discovered in Malaysia wasn't just different. It was so unexpected, so sophisticated, and so unlike anything I'd encountered in its neighboring countries that I ended up extending my 2-week trip to 6 weeks and leaving a piece of my heart permanently lodged somewhere between the cloud forests and the street food stalls. The first shock hit me within an hour of landing. After navigating the beautiful chaos of Bangkok's traffic, the organized mayhem of Jakarta's streets, and Manila's unpredictable transport systems, I stepped onto Kuala Lumpur's airport train, expecting more of the same controlled confusion. Instead, I found myself gliding on a spotless, air-conditioned express train that had Wi-Fi faster than my apartment back home, arrived exactly on schedule to the minute, and cost less than a fancy coffee. The train didn't just work. It worked flawlessly, efficiently, and with a level of polish that made me question whether I'd accidentally landed in Singapore. But this wasn't Singapore with its strict rules and premium prices. This was Malaysia, somehow delivering first-world infrastructure at developing country prices, and my brain couldn't quite compute how they pulled this off. The second revelation came when I ventured into my first Malaysian breakfast spot, expecting something similar to the street food I devoured in Bangkok and Jakarta. What I found instead was a culinary universe so diverse and sophisticated that it made everywhere else seem one-dimensional. At a single Capicium, a traditional coffee shop, I watched Malay families eating nasi lemak with fiery sambal, Chinese uncles sipping kopi and dissecting char kway teow, Indian workers tearing into roti canai with dal, and everyone coexisting in this beautiful, delicious harmony. Thailand had amazing Thai food. Indonesia served incredible Indonesian cuisine. The Philippines delivered fantastic Filipino dishes. But Malaysia had somehow mastered all these plus its own unique fusion creations. The roti canai was crispier than anything I'd eaten in India. The char kway teow had a smoky complexity that rivaled the best Chinese hot styles. And the nasi lemak sambal had layers of flavor I'd never had. What truly shocked me was how different communities didn't just coexist in Malaysia. They genuinely thrived together in a way I hadn't witnessed anywhere else in the region. In Thailand, I'd mostly encountered Thai culture. In Indonesia, despite its diversity, Javanese culture dominated. The Philippines felt wonderfully unified, but relatively homogeneous. But Malaysia was like watching a miracle of multiculturalism actually work in real time. I'd walk down Petaling Street and hear 5 languages in 1 minute: Malay, Mandarin, Tamil, English, and various Chinese dialects, and nobody seemed to think this was unusual. Hindu temples stood next to mosques, next to Buddhist temples, next to churches, and instead of tension, there was this casual acceptance that seemed impossibly rare in today's world. Malaysia had figured out something that most countries only talk about: how to let different cultures maintain their distinct identities while building something greater together. The infrastructure continued to blow my mind the deeper I traveled. Thailand's beaches were more famous, Indonesia's islands more numerous, the Philippines' coastlines more celebrated. Yet Malaysia's highways were like silk ribbons cutting through rainforests, connecting cities with an efficiency that made road trips an actual pleasure. I drove from Kuala Lumpur to Penang on a highway that would make most European countries envious, paying tolls that cost less than a meal, passing rest stops with actual good food and clean facilities. When I took overnight buses, they weren't the cramped, delayed adventures I'd experienced elsewhere. They were punctual, comfortable, and equipped with charging ports and blankets. Even in smaller towns like Ipoh or Malacca, the public facilities, the signage, the general organization suggested a country that had invested seriously in making life easier for everyone, not just those in the capital. Cameron Highlands delivered the knockout punch to my assumptions. After the tropical heat of Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines, I wasn't prepared for Malaysia, to suddenly serve up rolling hills covered in tea plantations that looked like they'd been teleported from England, strawberry farms where I could pick my own fruit, and temperatures that required an actual jacket. Thailand had its mountains in the north, sure, but nothing prepared me for the surreal experience of sipping British-style high tea while surrounded by Southeast Asian jungle, or staying in mock Tudor buildings that somehow didn't feel out of place. Malaysia had climate diversity that meant you could experience tropical beaches, highland coolness, and urban sophistication all within a few hours' drive, a geographic gift that its neighbors couldn't match. The technology sophistication caught me completely off guard. While Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines were all modernizing rapidly, Malaysia seemed to have leapfrogged into the future when I wasn't looking. Touch and go cards worked everywhere. Highways, parking, convenience stores, even street food stalls in some places. I could pay for nearly everything with my phone. The internet was reliable even in relatively remote areas, and the government services were digitized in ways that made bureaucracy almost painless. Cyberjaya and parts of Kuala Lumpur felt like a glimpse into what smart cities actually look like when they're built thoughtfully rather than just slapped with a smart label. This wasn't just infrastructure. It was integrated infrastructure where everything connected and actually communicated with everything else. Yet Malaysia somehow balanced all this modernity with cultural preservation in ways that seemed impossibly contradictory. In Georgetown, Penang, I found street art covering heritage buildings that were meticulously maintained, creating this collision between contemporary creativity and colonial history. In Malacca, Portuguese, Dutch, and British influences layered over Malay and Chinese traditions created a historical lasagna that you could taste, see, and feel on every street corner. Thailand preserved its temples beautifully. Indonesia had incredible heritage sites. The Philippines maintained its Spanish colonial architecture. But Malaysia seemed to preserve everything while also adding new layers, creating a living museum where history wasn't locked behind ropes but integrated into daily life. You could eat in a restaurant that had been serving the same Nyonya recipes for 5 generations while scrolling through 5G internet, and somehow this juxtaposition felt perfectly natural. The economic sophistication was the final piece that made me realize Malaysia was playing a completely different game from its neighbors. While the other countries I'd visited relied heavily on tourism, Malaysia had clearly diversified into manufacturing, technology, and services in ways that created real, sustainable prosperity. Penang wasn't just a beach destination. It was a global semiconductor hub where the world's electronics were manufactured. Johor wasn't just a border town. It was transforming into a massive economic zone that attracted serious international investment. The shopping malls in Kuala Lumpur didn't just sell imported goods. They showcased Malaysian brands, Malaysian technology, and Malaysian innovation. The wealth I saw wasn't just concentrated in tourist areas or elite neighborhoods. It spread into middle-class suburbs and smaller towns in ways that suggested genuine, broad-based development rather than a facade of prosperity that sometimes masks deeper inequality. Thailand gave me temples and beaches that Instagram dreams are made of. Indonesia offered raw adventure and spiritual depth. The Philippines delivered warmth and natural beauty that could break your heart. But Malaysia shocked me by being a complete package that nobody had properly advertised. It's a country that mastered the impossible balancing act. Modern yet traditional, diverse yet harmonious, developed yet affordable, organized yet still exciting. Malaysia doesn't shout about its achievements the way other destinations market themselves. And maybe that's why it caught me so completely off guard. This is a new channel dedicated to uncovering the surprising truths and hidden wonders that make Malaysia truly exceptional, and your support helps us explore more of these eye-opening stories. If Malaysia has shocked you too, or if you're curious to discover what you might be missing, smash that like button, subscribe to join fellow travelers who've fallen for this underrated gem, and share in a comment what aspect of Malaysia surprised you most. I guarantee this country has secrets that will change how you see Southeast Asia forever.